Obscured by summer growth, these ruins are almost forgotten about. It's hard to believe that several decades ago, this was a very busy area. At the peak of operation, there were 161 Belgian coke ovens located in the small community of Fort Palmer. These coke ovens were a rare design in western Pennsylvania, as most were actually beehive in design. While the ovens still are in existence, most of the town that you saw in the previous photos is long gone, obscured by the brush in the area. The design in these ovens allowed for the coke to be pushed from one end to another into hoppers, and the coke would then be hauled off to the steel mills in the area. The ovens you're seeing probably went cold in the 1930s. The mine had been long gone since. The road that we're following today would have been the site of the Ligonier Valley Railroad, which terminated at the coke ovens. Oddly enough, the road that these ovens are located on is called Coke Oven Road. The Ligonier Valley Railroad would have continued through the opening in these trees, crossing the road we're presently traveling on, and then continuing for the other break. This footage was shot by Pete Picadio, a lifelong resident of the area. He took his 8mm camera out one day in 1940 to film the operations of the Wilpon coke ovens. These ovens are of the beehive design I mentioned earlier. These designs were way more common in western Pennsylvania. And what you're seeing now is the Ligonier Valley Railroad actually in operation in Wilpon. The miners of Wilpon would have stayed in an area known as the Patch. This is the Patch in 1940, and this is the Patch today. You'll notice that some of the houses have been torn down or have been added on extensively, but the Patch is still in existence. One of the social clubs in Wilpon, which were common in many coal towns at the time. This here would have been one of the main stores in Wilpon. We're now continuing, we're actually going down Route 711 right now. What we're passing through would have been the old Ligonier Valley line. The railroad used two Ys to turn their trains around. One was located in the heart of the railroad, Ligonier. The shops and yard of the railroad were located in Ligonier. The engine house today is still in existence today, but part of the former Holy Trinity School. This photo here is of the only diesel that operated on the Ligonier Valley Railroad, just for one excursion. It's hard to believe that this school at one point was the heart of a major railroad. The parking lot today is where the yard for the railroad was once located. You can see there in the distance the Ligonier Valley Station. This is the station what it will look like on August 31st, 1952. It's hard to believe that where 5 engine bays once were is where the gymnasium and cafeteria of the school is today. That's one of the Doodlebugs, one of the 4 gas-operated engines that the railroad used. And that's the ash pit and what it looks like today. Once again, the parking lot is where the railroad yard was actually located, which included a coal and sand combo tipple and a double-spouted water tank. You can see the coal and sand tipple there. That there is the Ligonier Armory. Today is no longer in existence. Now it's the area of a housing development. Just across the street from the engine house is the crown jewel of the Ligonier Valley Railroad, the Ligonier Station, built in 1910 to replace the older station, which you can see off to the right, which served as the freight station for the rest of the history of the railroad. These videos, once again, were shot in 1952, actually for the last run of the Ligonier Valley Railroad. The platform is still in existence today, but the tracks have since been removed and is now the location of a parking lot. A photo taken of the 1948 rail fan excursion on the Ligonier Valley Railroad, and this here is the lean-to of the original engine house. The lean-to is still in existence as a private residence. Once again, this is the freight station, was the original passenger station, still in existence today, just across from the Ligonier Station. These videos again taken during the last run, and you see the platform today. It's hard to believe there was a large crowd here at one point. Pretty quiet nowadays. And this here is the video of the last train pulling into the Ligonier, August 31st, 1952. Engine 807 is pulling this train. It was given to the railroad in 1948 and was used for the rest of the railroad's existence. The old signs still hang in today. Once again, this is 807 parked just outside the station on a cold day. No trains are going to be coming for Ligonier anytime soon by the looks of things. This was taken August 30th, 1952, and gives you an idea what it looks like today. The tracks would have continued west toward Latrobe through the Loyalhanna Gap. And this here is the last run departing Ligonier, August 31st, 1952, on its way to Latrobe, which is where we're going to eventually end up by the end of this video. West of Ligonier, the railroad became single track again, passing from a platform stop known as Bells. One of the demises of the Ligonier Valley Railroad was the expansion of Route 30. Where on 30 East occupies the railroad bed. On the opposite side of the trees was in fact an ice pond, once serviced by the Ligonier Valley Railroad. At a platform known as Millbank, siding splintered off as the main line continued right through Idlewild Park. Idlewild was built in 1878 to boost ridership on the Ligonier Valley Railroad. Besides 3 to 5 regular round trips between Latrobe and Ligonier, there were also excursions just to Idlewild with Pennsylvania Railroad motive power. While the park owes its formation to the railroad, the park was not affected by the closing of the line in 1952. The railroad continued through the area that would become Soak Zone into Darlington Station. Darlington was one of the 4 main stations serviced by the railroad. One room inside of the station would have been a waiting room and place to purchase your tickets. The rest was the house of the station master and their family. Not only was it a passenger stop, it was also a place where beverages and sandwiches were sold to passengers on Idlewild excursions before entering the park. Today, the station has been restored to its railroad glory and operated as a museum by the Ligonier Valley Railroad Association. Museum hours vary from year to year, so I recommend checking out their website before visiting. One of the outdoor exhibits at Darlington Station is that of a 1905 bobber caboose, similar to Caboose 57 that was used by the Ligonier Valley Railroad from 1936 to 1952. The tracks would cross Idlewild Hill Road and then head on to the Loyalhanna Gap. At Longbridge, the railroad passed under the Loyalhanna Viaduct. The viaduct has since been replaced and now carries 30 east. Once in the gorge, trains would be greeted by this tipple. The tipple was used by the Booth and Finn Quarry, a siding across the Loyalhanna Creek to service the southern quarries on the opposite side of the gap. The railroad continued through the gorge on the northern wall. What once was a railroad bed is now 30 west. The gap was the highlight for many passengers going to and coming from Ligonier. It's because of this narrow valley that the railroad was originally built as narrow gauge, but after 5 years, the railroad was then converted to standard gauge. After going through the gap, the railroad ran through the numerous businesses of Kingston. One industry was the brickyard, where Kingston Supply resides to this day on the right of the camera. Another station was also here at Kingston. This station that was built was in similar design to other stations along the railroad. The station ran for much of the railroad's history and was only demolished in 1952 when the westbound lanes of 30 were added. The station would have been located off to the left. Other industries in Kingston included a paper plant that became a coal operation before being owned by Continental. Continental's old plants still are here today. As the railroad entered Latrobe, it paralleled Ligonier Street, which is where we're traveling on right now. Located along the stretch would have been the Osborne platform stop, long gone by 1926. While the Ligonier Valley Railroad did close in 1952, a 3-mile portion from Latrobe to Kingston was kept in operation until the 1990s to supply the Continental plants in Kingston. The Ligonier Valley Railroad now departs from Ligonier Street and heads into Latrobe. Here in downtown Latrobe, the railroad crossed Route 982. For its last 2 miles, the Ligonier Valley Railroad was boxed in between buildings in Lincoln Avenue. The blue buildings you are seeing are part of a still operation, once serviced by the railroad and as of 2017, still in use. In Latrobe is the Oakville Station, which is similar to Kingston Station. This station was closed in 1926, but trains still stopped here until 1952. The Ligonier Valley Railroad tracks were in fact still in place till 2011, when they were pulled out because they were no longer needed. At Weiss Furniture, the railroad split into the second and 2 Ys on the Ligonier Valley Railroad. This once again allowed for trains to be turned around and head back to Ligonier. In this area, there were actually 4 tracks, including an area for cars to be weighed and an area for sidings. 2 of the 4 tracks curved around Weiss Furniture and connected to the Pennsylvania Railroad line, which is now Norfolk Southern. The Ligonier Valley Railroad ended at its western terminus in Latrobe. The railroad had its own station in the 19th century, but the Pennsylvania Railroad had raised its tracks in 1903. As such, the Ligonier Valley Railroad had the shared platform with the Pennsylvania Railroad's Latrobe Station. A small yard is now an empty parking lot for Family Video and DeSalvo's restaurant. Here at Latrobe Station, you can still find some ruins of the Ligonier Valley Railroad. I hope you enjoyed this look back at the Ligonier Valley Railroad. Its 75-year history proved to be vital in the development of western Pennsylvania.
Yes, it has.